to the next one.
Tracy.
Okay.
Hello.
Ready your folder already. Try to read kung ano yung what they're commenting on so that you can open the image of the video. All right.
Okay.
So let's start, Sir Gerry.
Tracy is doing a church. That's also a church that will not only provide food for the soul, but also food for the body, right? Trace, that's how you approach your project. Anyway,
Open your folder already.
I have the presentation slides ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
sige. You can start sharing it so that you can assume which images Sir Gerry or Cooks are referring to.
Can you?
Yeah, Trace, I'm just going to ramble on with my thoughts about your project. Now, you just put images that you think are relevant to what I'm saying, but there's really no order in how I say my comments. So your church, as I said, is going to be like a garden or as well. I like the fact that you chose very simple yet hardy plants for your church. As I said at the beginning, it's very crucial the type of plants that you chose because how the plants will flourish is going to determine the success of your project. So I like also that it's open and that it's you're trying to be organic with your materials. It goes well with your vision of the building as also a farm, and I appreciate that part. And also the sounds of bird song. You showed us 5 types of bird species. Are these birds endemic to the country?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
These are endemic and they're dominantly around the village. So every morning, actually, my original site was next to my house, and then I transferred to the clubhouse because the expand space and the location of having the churchgoers usually originally on Sundays. It's in the clubhouse, so the proximity was just perfect, and I was able to transfer my from my original site to the area, and still it has also the birds,
Okay.
same birds.
Yeah, it's good also that you're thinking of preserving rain through your catchment because that can be reused. Of course, because you're doing something like a farm. I like the fact that you have levels in your building as you go up the ramp, right? There are certain levels that people can sit on if they want to rest, if they just want to relax. It brings us somewhat to a Southeast Asian tradition of the papag, which is just a flat surface that people sit on. Sometimes they even eat and do other activities on that. So yeah, I like the fact that you have these flat levels that people can use. The drainage, the gutter. Can we go to the roof system? Yeah, so the drainage and the gutter design is something that I think uh, is quite good. Do you have that drawing, Trace?
Is it an axonometric or the plan on top? This one.
I think
Where is it?
I don't know if you have a gutter system that you designed. It's here in my notes.
Okay.
The gutter system. So
Did
I
I
don't know if it's
paste
something that I should touch on.
this
Um,
one? This
Okay, but anyway, now that we're here in this image, I like that idea of you having holes on the floor for wind to go through. Although I wish you'd push it further by having more holes, because then I think you can still do that. you have a oh oh. This reminds me of the community pantries that's happening now. Maybe your building can develop into something like this with the produce that you have. I have a question about the reservoir volume on the
Yes, sir.
ground floor. Is that going to be
Suffice for the plants.
no for no? I was wondering if the area of the reservoir is that not too big for the amount of water you are going to get from the rainwater?
Um, Plants typically need about like 25 liters, and imagine having it trellising all the way up, and every almost most of the plants are very heavily needs water,
Hmm?
and given the storage, not all seasons, right, has um, especially
Rain.
during the dry seasons, yeah, has rain.
Yeah.
So having this as a kind of a long-term storage as well, is primarily for the plants, especially is was my goal mostly of the project, in order to allow this, taking advantage the fact that they grow abundantly annually, and as you can see in all the plants I picked, it's local and
Yeah.
endemic.
How are they? How will the water be accessed for watering the plants from the reservoir?
On the reservoir, okay.
Is
There
there?
was where was that detail? Right here. There was this one drawing detail I wasn't able to express and explore enough. Was
Uh-huh.
I was supposed to put in every level, there would be also like a temporary storage system on each floor, so that although it's not fully processed as the water that would be underneath, it could be a way for the water to go around. But yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have time to
Yeah, but yeah,
express it in drawing.
you have thought of that, right? To use the water in the reservoir uh,
Yes,
for the plant for the plants, no?
yes, sir.
What is your material, Tracy, for the interiors? What is that brown
Um,
colored material?
um, uh, I was choosing around urban materials, mostly on clay, so that it's easily replenishable. Especially, well, the only reason why most urban structures, like in the Philippines, isn't used, although it's used. I remember during times when there is like somewhere in Manila before during the Spanish colonization, they use it for like the battlefront. So um, the using mud or clay architecture has been there. It's just a little bit more hassle because of the we have rainy seasons, but it's feasible. So I wanted to somewhat use and take advantage of complementing the bamboo with the
So,
clay architecture.
so this clay material is more like a facing. It's like a finishing on the walls.
Oh, it's not a face finishing. It's part.
The
It's
whole
the
thing, the
inside.
whole panel is made of
Yes,
clay. Yeah. So you'd have to
and
put a structural
uh,
system
yes.
into it.
I actually do have a drawing on the structural system somewhere. I think above. Sorry, there's a lot of slides somewhere here. So it's kind of the skeletal of the within the funnel, and then
Uh-huh.
added ribs so that further supporting the arches.
So it's a bamboo system.
Yeah,
And
bamboo and using earthen clay.
so you're going to have like a plate or like a panel that will cover this bamboo, the
Yeah,
bamboo skeleton. Yeah. Have
yes.
you ever thought of just exposing the bamboo and not
Um,
covering it?
I also have thought of that, but um, given the time of modeling, since it's kind of a curvilinear structure,
Ah,
I tried. I really tried. It was
Yeah, because
really hard to
there is a
read.
way for you to be able to gather the water anyway through a pipe system without having to cover this. Because I think it will look even more beautiful when you have this bamboo structure that will you know that actually delineates the shape of of that funnel. Hang on, huh?
Yes, sir. I'll take
Uh,
that suggestion.
yeah, just the bamboo is beautiful if you expose it
Thank
anyway.
you.
Think of that. Okay, I just want to add this that it's not really new the idea that churches can be inspired by plants or trees because the
Mhm.
origins of Gothic churches actually came from the idea of forests and that
Mm, yeah.
those tall
The
fluted
art.
columns and clustered columns are actually interpretations of the forest before.
Learning something new every day. Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. The Gothic period was a time when Europeans accepted the fact that the center of life can be man, not just God. So part of that is that if you're the center of life and God's creation, then you can enjoy whatever has God created, including the appreciation of nature. And so that's why they transported that into Gothic churches. Trace, I suggest you zone your plants and don't just plant them everywhere and anywhere. I mean, even if it's just uh, bitter melon and tomatoes and sitaw, there would still be some areas where they would grow better than most. Again, I want to find out, although yours is not so crucial, because I know that the amount of soil needed to grow these vegetables would not be as large volume as would otherwise be other plants. So it's a good choice to begin with. Um, do you have provisions for maintenance of the plants? A gardener, a
oh,
farmer?
actually, on the site location, I wasn't able to indicate it here. The location where's this? In here in this area, that's actually where the gardeners currently stays. In the within the complex, usually they hang out in this spot because of yeah there's a lot of shaded areas there with the big canopies, and they kind of hide the the
Yeah.
soil. So this adding this architecture, being part of the community, also gives them a proper space wherein
Uh-huh.
they could uh, instead of always just going around the village in itself, there's some space that they could stay or rest.
Trace,
Magkatabi
looking at the site there, what is that building to the right of
here.
your building? No, the one that's
Here.
yeah, it looks like it's shaped like a blob. Right. What is that building? Is that a building or
That's not a building. It's a sorry, it's a pool.
a pool?
So
No,
this is
because
actually a clubhouse complex. Yeah.
I was wondering, because actually nature abhors a straight line. So I was wondering if, were you thinking of making your church more amorphous, more amoeba-like, perhaps, in the plan?
Oh,
Uh, you
the
know,
reason why I didn't push through amoeba-like structures, I wanted to maximize the areas of the trellising plants, because if you once you put it within a like whole some cavernous spaces, there would be more shade. So I wanted to maximize uh, the square profile, as
yeah,
well as somewhat reflecting the basic design principles of classical architecture. It's kind of symmetrical, but I kind of played with the idea of the um, the change of the verticality, instead of having it all extremely high,
uh-huh.
with the curved roof. It plays a huge role in terms of the water collection with its orientation in the southwest area, and also for the acoustics of the choir to go all the way down. So it's been derived with quite a lot of the also with the classical architecture of churches.
Yeah, because you've actually debated already from the classical plan of a church, which is generally rectangular. You've turned it into a square. So I was just thinking aloud if you could have gone in that direction. Can you can you show us the groin vault and how it turns into a funnel? I think you have a
Oh, okay, yes. This was one of my early iterations. I think this was the third one that I was able to explore first time.
uh-huh.
So what happens is there's these two planes. It's kind of parabolic, and then you intersect it, creates this what you know the barrel vault, and then you
The
allow
groin
these.
vault.
Yes, and then I made four of these copies of these so that it could create a funnel intersection in the middle, and then I use that as the DNA of the structure, and then you could see
Okay.
how I kind of warped it to fit the site context and the prevailing winds towards the southwest area where the habagat usually is at its strongest with the rain.
What did you what did you want for the rain for the wind to do in your structure?
Um, because well, it's just dominant winds, of course. Generally to allow the when it rains, right? Wind blows at kind of like a general direction, so that more water will be able to be captured. Kind of like if you have a cup and then allow water to slide here. I thought of it kind of like gravity of um, how the rain catchment can take advantage with the form.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Um, can you hear the water inside the church as it flows down?
Uh, I don't know. I wish I could put it. um, Honestly, I don't know how to answer that.
No,
In
because
terms.
you're already thinking of sounds, right? Like you
Mhm.
started your explanation with bird song and how
Oh
you feel
yes.
that listening to birds actually relaxes people. So I
Mm-hmm.
was just wondering if you thought of that also because your funnels are right in the middle of the interiors of the church. So I was just wondering if
Yes.
you thought of it that way. Or
Mm.
this is I really laughed when I saw your the Pew Gardens. You know, when you grow, you you're
Monggo.
gonna grow those what you call them toge.
Atoge. Yeah, because honestly, the reason why I also got into it's in my first iteration right here wherein I wanted to create some toge pods to like some dark enclosing space to grow that. It was like something of a huge tangent until it kind of led to the church architecture.
You
And
could have,
yes, sir.
but that I mean, if that works, why not? You know, if you can grow food in dark areas,
Yeah.
then you can actually expand that concept outside of the
Mm,
seatings of the church and into the other parts of the building
like
because
the basement
or
or
the ramp or the
oh
you know by the side of yeah the ramps or the passageway because then there's still food production
yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
you can think of so yeah my comment basically is yeah just check the weight of earth and clay if you're going to use that and because that's going to
Be happy.
impact on your structural design. You also need to check the cantilever system uh, that you designed. Can we look at that, the cantilever system?
Okay. So if you're looking from this, the reason why it's kind of long, the presentation of the boards is mostly because I was expressing each of the location of where the poles is gonna support the entire structure.
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
how can I show it? where's a good view? Maybe in the exploded and well, you could see it in the elevations. There's a bamboo that goes all the way down, and in each side, even in the inside. Maybe I could show the axon here. This perspective drawing. You could see it goes all the way down, allowing it to support the cantilever that goes beyond the what do you call this? The arches.
This is bamboo from bottom to top. These are
Yeah.
bamboo poles.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, are you sure we can get bamboo that's long?
Usually what they do, they segment it. So,
They lash it. They lash.
yeah, they lash it. So,
Okay.
that's how I could imagine if I was able to detail it further. I wish I could. I would have done something like that.
But your
And then your screens are
your
made of
structure is
plants.
the funnel, right?
Hello. Sorry. Come again.
Your main structural is the funnel, right?
Yes, it's the funnel, and then because there's a cantilever, I don't think it will be able to support just maybe 1 meter, yes, walkway, but that won't be enough for the ramps and the trellising pot systems. So there was a need to somewhat extend from the main support. Although it's really strong, it's better to make sure, especially um, knowing that the Philippines is a earthquake-prone country. It's
Yeah.
nice to add the tensile strength of the bamboos as as it sways with the um, yeah, a further support.
Yeah, well, I think it's great to start exploring in that direction. We're actually among the last of the Southeast Asian countries when it comes to exploring bamboo in our architecture. Uh, so it's great also that you've thought of the disabled and or the elderly for your project. Is the reservoir open? Is that something that people can fall into?
Um, oh, it should be it's the way I see it. It's somewhat enclosed.
No.
This is they won't fall into it. It's within
Sure.
the edges of
Yeah, but
the lower end um of the basement.
just be
Where
aware of pests and mosquitoes and
Mhm. Yes,
because
sir.
that could be breeding ground. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe just put fish. Is there a theater area in your place or a place where you can put up a market?
Oh
Uh,
yes, I wasn't able to express it well in the drawings. Sorry. Um, is there a good photo location to show? I didn't show the detail quite well, but it's kind of seamless to the design right here. I wish I did a perspective section, but yeah, maybe
yeah.
next time.
Yeah, so just
Um,
the open areas. I don't know if you can also think of continuing the farm on the ground area. You have a huge area on your site that's unused. If you can continue the plantings there, I don't know if that's against the brief of Jim, but I feel that if there's ground that you can use to continue planting, why not? I'm also thinking of the big area that's with informal settlers.
oh
Did
yes.
did you think of what the relationship of your church would be to them? Because
I did think about it with given the proximity of the location of the church because I remember during the pandemic we did somewhat help them give food since they're kind of like our neighbors and especially in the start of the pandemic
Mhm.
and that kind of sparked some ideas with the location of and the idea of the trellising architecture that is dominantly using local fruits and vegetables. So imagining how they establish this connection, like kind of breaking the barriers between different classes, kind of helps with the relationship with
Yeah,
the people.
yeah. because the fact that you decided to do a church means it's one of the last remaining typologies that actually cuts across classes, no? Because everybody's
Mhm.
welcome to go inside the church.
Yeah.
But you have this huge illegal settler area. That maybe you should sort of think about what would be the relationship of your project to them,
I see.
and how that can be, enhanced further. That's why I thought of a marketplace, or a
Mm,
place where there could be community pantries, something like that. Because thinking further, what happens when you harvest the.
mhm. Actually, sir, in this it's kind of seen a little bit in this render elevation as the experiential architecture happens. If you could look closely here in the
Yeah,
background, um, there is like a to kind of a stand that is behind the person seated and on the stool. So I imagined, because when going to markets, right, there's usually like a tier wherein you could patong or like put your fruits on top of a long table, and then they could just remove it. So it's kind of it's not as obvious. That's how I wanted it to be, so that it kind of seamlessly still becomes part of the architecture. And when it's not being used, it could be used as an extension space for people to sit. So when I detailed it, the height is actually like 480 in order to sit, and then the other one I just copied and elevated it there. So it's kind of like a table. Yeah, although it's not as expressed as I
yeah.
wanted it to be
I
in
think
the
I
section.
think that's what I meant when I said earlier about the papag system, wherein you have uh,
Oh.
horizontal areas that people can use. What is the material of the stairs here that we're looking at?
Oh, it's also earthen clay
Are there
mud.
holes on it? Are those
Yes.
holes?
Yes. The way that the holes are designed is kind of diagonal. Again, I wasn't able to express it, but in order to prevent rain to come in, just like a very slight angular elevation. Although the only downside there, as I was trying to explore like underground, it can be quite dark. Like, to be honest, it was a little bit kind of a struggle. But the plus side about that, with the basement being perforated, it becomes very cool, it's naturally ventilated and really cold below. So it is a good storage space for underground. So likely it's gonna be more of artificial lighting at the bottom,
No,
unfortunately. But yeah, I was able to um put a drop ceiling to make sure that it's still possible to do so,
yeah,
especially
I
parts.
I think, Trace, the fact that you chose clay, you can explore that further. Of course, clay is one of the oldest building materials, but even today, in places like India and the Middle East, the idea of creating screens of interspersed clay elements, whether it's bricks or wall panels, to create screens that will filter the light, is something that you can explore
Mm-hmm.
uh, here. And the fact also that I think it's right that you created a system of ventilation for the lower ground. But as I said earlier, also push it further by creating more perforations in the floor areas.
Also,
Um,
oh, sir. I just want to add also, if ever that's okay.
yeah.
Also within the structure, I remember talking to Sir Jim, and he was talking about like I forgot what's it called, the in Filipino architecture, the top wherein it's
Uh,
nakabuta
yeah, yeah,
siya.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
clear story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
clear story in Tagalog, I forgot what's it called. It's expressed all the way throughout here, because to maximize the also the ventilation of the like the outside breeze, so they and into the interior, and
know.
it goes through almost every corner of the basement area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, but to end my feedback, uh, it's great that you've combined this. I like the choice of plans. I think that's very practical and realistic of you to choose these plans. I think they can grow with the system that you've designed, which for me is important. You just need to tend it. Just be aware that plants need tending and maintenance. I do wish that you'd explore further the footprint of your building from just a basic square, but it works somewhat. And the idea of using organic materials is, I think, my favorite part of your project, because that really is something that we should
Yes,
start
sir.
exploring. We should start exploring. Okay, that's it. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Faye.
sir.
Thank you. Take
I'm
it away,
really.
Cooks.
Okay.
Oh no.
So, sinabi ko although this one is already in the video editing, you could have clipped some parts. Yung nag-set up ka. Anyway, it's
Sorry.
yung nakita ko, it's the chaffle. Sabi ko,
Oh yeah.
chapel waffle? Question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, it was a joke. It was a joke
Sure.
inside my head. I was just like, you know what? It's kind of catchy, and for now, yeah, that was
Kasi it's
actually
actually fun to name
yeah.
these
Yes.
projects. If you can name it cleverly, you can remember it. And
Yes.
yeah, pwedeng seryoso, pwedeng hindi seryoso. Up to you how you would name it. Basta it also speaks on the project, and you always remember the project because you give a name to it. It's
Yeah.
it's like a pet. You name a pet, you forget your pet. Ganun yan.
I'm
Yes,
surprised you
so
actually decoded that, because I was like, I wonder if someone will notice. Like, I actually named it after waffle and the chapel. Like,
okay. So next, I was thinking about your storytelling kasi you started with the churches. Sabi ko,
yes.
I don't know if there's a better story to start rather than the chapel itself. Yun yung I was just wondering nun while you were telling the story. Okay. So sabi ko, experiential storytelling is very good. Like how you were explaining, I mean, how you were describing an experience inside the church, how it is airy, how ganito yung feeling, ganun yung feeling. And that's something that you want to get and apply to your architecture. And that is a very clear premise or precedent on what you want to do also. And having that characteristic into your architecture, that's actually very good na that was the thing that you were pointing out. It wasn't really na you were pointing out na merong mga pews na may upuan, merong altar, so parang pag nilagay ko yun, that would make it a chapel, but rather this glorified space of spirituality and how it felt and how you explained and described it. That is the meat of what you're designing, and I like that you explained and said that right away dun sa may presentation mo. Sabi mo having no nature on church. Currently parang wala nang yung nature dun sa church. It's like how Sir Gerry said na first, di ba, we wanted to have nature in, and then maybe we have forgotten and we put nature out. We don't know what happened along the way.
um,
So, yeah, to have nature with that was a very good point. So perhaps sinabi ko yung start ng story mo is good. Hindi ako sure kung okay ako sa start ng storytelling mo. I was thinking if there might be another direction or starting point that you could have tried, sabi ka. This is, maybe it could be like a good thesis point about a religious architecture, ganon, but being more on the nature leaning. It's a good exploration, kumbaga. Yung nangyari lang dito, it's not really about the plant that is prioritized. It's more of the religious architecture, and then there's the plant. So parang ganun yung nangyari. Although I wouldn't say it's bad, but medyo yung studio said that it's plant first. Although hindi naman ako ganun ka-sensitive, it's the hybridize of both of them, which is good. So maybe it wasn't the storytelling on how the hybridization was interpreted. So yung collage is also a good way to express an experience. Tas ikaw lang yata yung nagpakita ng collage that way. O nag-collage ka ng yung may pare, tapos may mga halaman sa likod. So it was actually parang, oh, okay, gets ko na yung gagawin niya sa architecture. So at that point, without seeing your architecture, I was already very excited to see it. And that's what you could have to make people interested in your project. You're talking about your experiences that you want to create, diba? And that is your selling point. And after you sell that, it depends on how you translate na kagad into the architecture. which actually yung architecture is yung experience that you are actually imagining na that is what you're designing, and then in the end how you execute it is already another skill. So yung pinaka kailangan natin i-take away talaga dito is yung designing the space that we want others to experience, and then how we communicate that space. So yun, kaya very ako sa may storytelling, yun yung mga point out ko. Okay, so parameters for your architecture, yung sinabi mo, yung merong birds, may sunlight, may water, yan, that was good precedent and premise on what you're telling, anong kinukwento mo. So that's a very good jumping point also, na you're saying, these will affect my architecture. Now I'm wondering, what will the architecture look like? So yan, merong room for imagination. May 1 plus 1 equals 3. Na ganun na storytelling yan. So I'm still asking yung hindi ako sure kung what's the better way of saying your topic, since I already knew the start na you found the lot, nakita mo yung mga ibon, may nakita ka certain plant, nahanap mo yung mga ganon. And then having an idea to marry this with the chapel, or the other way around, you talk about the chapel and then you talk about nature. I'm not really sure kung ano yung better storytelling way, but maybe the way that you said it is already the good way of doing it. So it was just wondering if parang
If there's
exploring
a
on
better.
how presenting it, if it were the other way around of your experience na talagang kinuwento mo na ganito yung nangyari, tapos ito na yung naisip ko, versus sa medyo curated na yung storytelling mo na binaliktad mo na, and sabi, chapel, gano'n. So yun yung isang yun yung isang point ko na hindi ako sure which is better. So ayun,
Okay.
something to understand lang and to think about also. So your site is not outside your house anymore? Oh yes, you answered
No.
that kanina. So yung nagulat nga ako kasi nga alam ko na yung story. So yung isa number 10, nung initially, hindi ako sure kung ano yung plant mo. Parang kasi syempre hinahanap ko kung ano yung plant. Probably if hindi minention ni Sir Jim na plant yung pinaka-central of everything, hindi ko siya hahanapin. Parang magiging mas organic siya na chapel, tapos nagkaroon ng plants, parang ganun yung naisip. But I think yung doon lang, umabot na ng certain minutes, hindi ko pa alam kung ano yung plant. So parang medyo lang, nag-veer away lang tayo doon. Although yan, and then it became that one. Nakita ko, tapos sabi ko, I hope you made kwento this way na rather than pick a singular plant, I make architecture for different kinds of plant that will take over the structure and will thrive, rather than me expecting lang na isang plant lang dun sa architecture. So, parang yun yung nangyari dun sa expectation na kala ko isa lang yung mangyayari, tapos bigla it was several plants. So, oh, okay. So, yan. And then, seed dispersal, I should see that when a spot has seeds dispersed, I can imagine the plant growing dun sa spot na yun. So, parang hindi ko lang siya na-imagine ma-disperse and mag-grow dun sa may certain spots that you said na mag-disperse yung
Oh.
seeds towards. So,
Well, about the birds, it's kind of the way I saw birds like part of the narrative. It's well, they're unpredictable, not knowing where they exactly disperse. Of course, the way I see the architecture I created is mostly curated, obviously by caretakers, in order to maximize the needed parameters. Because as you can see here, there's like certain rows of spacing,
okay.
root lines, and height,
Okay.
which I dictated towards the architecture, especially the ceiling height. Normally, right, as I mentioned, 2.4 yung height ng ceiling, but here's 1.8, so it's easy to grab. And given the ventilation naman, it's not that hot.
Yung, since pinention mo na yan, I was actually wondering din dyan, meron ako isang point dito about that. Sabi mo 1.8 meters. Hindi ba, for example, if I provide a 3-meter height, tas maski 1.8 lang yung kaya ng plant, ano mangyayari dun sa may plant? Magka-climb pa ba siya? Or magsa-stop climbing ba siya?
It's
Or...
kind of it could climb a little bit further, but I think it needs a bigger pot. So if you put a plant in a box, like a plant box, it will not be able to, unlike putting it straight to the ground, it could grow more root systems and everything. But
Okay.
it's about the maximum so that it's easy
Okay.
to grab.
Okay, got it. Ayan. So, species and sound, yung sinabi mo na interesting yung study na yun. Tapos yung, I hope, baliktad din yung pagkwento mo nun. Kasi yung you were explaining what you researched, ganun. It was very factual. But I hope na yung endpoint yun nauna, yung about it being calming. So perhaps you can say that this is an element to create my architectural experience for this and that, ganun, for added spirituality. And yun. So, these birds actually do these sounds according to some studies na ginawa nila ganito. So parang yun na yung dulo ng disclaimer mo rather than yun yung upfront. Sabi nila ganito. Tapos parang ako, okay, ano naman kung sinabi nila? Parang ganun yung naiisip. So, at least dito yung, I imagine having calming sounds and yung mga birds are perfect for this one. Tapos parang, talaga, totoo ba yun? Oo, sabi nung study nila ganito sa ganong university. Okay, wala na akong masasabi. Tapos yung, sabi ko yung vault na ginawa mo, it is a groin vault. So, yung barrel na dalawa, it's a groin vault. Yan. Yun lang, ninote ko. That's very
Yeah.
interesting architecture and the roof is really catching the water. So you could really see the intention of you wanting to catch the water. And it is very important that your architecture is very, very, very legible. And that was extremely legible, much like yung ginawa ni Land. So yung mga may nagsabi na may water collection system sila. I'm not saying it should look like this. I'm saying it should communicate as clear as these examples kay Tracy and kay Land. So that was very interesting of how nangyari yung roof mo. And it's also very nice yung system nung galing sa roof mo, it affected your interior space. Much like dun kay Lance, yung kanyang funnel experience, yung interior space. So, it's a very holistic also in terms of the approach. So, hindi kayong parang, ano mo, parang tinago mo siya. It really is what it is. So, that is very good and very clear yung ginawa mo. So, tinanong ko, yung isang tanong ko, why isn't, ito wondering lang ako why isn't the plan of your chapel or church like a church-like plan na cross?
Oh, okay. So the reason why I didn't make it a church like, I wanted to maximize the area, given like it's not as big as a, a cathedral would be, and it won't be as grand as that. So in order to maximize the way I thought of it, like how can I maximize the space? Okay, square is kind of the kind of a go-to shape that allows me to play around, uh, knowing that I'll be using trellising plants. It will be uh, enveloping the entire structure. Because if I cut it into rectangular parts, there are places of where there's gonna be shading and like some plants won't be able to grow. So that's what I initially thought of. So yeah.
Kasi you could have explored also other ways no form if iniisip mo yung light. What if it were like somewhat like a thin building, a very long thin building since your
Oh.
site is big, di ba? It could be parang a very long thin chapel. I mean, that could also work. I don't know. Ayun. So maraming possible na na I also wish na maybe I would have known na probably na explore para makita na marami kasing possibilities dito sa may program that you're doing. I'm not saying that it has to be across, di ba? It was just asking na why isn't it the other choice? Why did you pick that choice? So yun yung question na yun. Anyway, moving on, describing your architecture and experience is one of the storytelling methods that I've been waiting to find in the studio. So you were one of those that were managed to do that. So you really managed to tell the experience and you saying what you want with architecture. It's not about having a provision for this or that. It's about experiencing this and that. And ayun, it was very nice to see na pagka natapos na yung nagkaroon na ng release, like, oh, that's what she was saying. So it was a nice storytelling. So that's a good point that you have. And then yung hindi ako sure yung munggo growing in a dark place. Kasi dati, tinry din namin sa school yung mga munggo. Parang syempre haba yung stalk niya pagka tinago mo siya sa shelf. Tapos habulin niya yung sunlight. Tapos nag-light gray yung leaves. So hindi lang ako sure kung okay yung ganun sa may pews mo. So yun lang yung nag-wonder ako. Na hindi ako sure. So
because
parang ano lang yun.
sorry.
Yun lang yung wondering point, I'm not really finding for
Mm.
justification. Like, I wonder if yun ba talaga dapat or parang ganun lang yung question
It
ko.
actually it really works because for me in my experience I did it at home like
Mhm.
several times. I was like, oh okay, so actually you could grow it without with sunlight of course, but in order to get that white pale
Mhm.
kind of toge that we know, people kind
Okay.
of yeah hide it in
Okay.
places.
Okay. I see. Baka ano, sana nilagyan mo din yung ano, kung nasan yung ledge ng mga PUs nung dun
Ah,
nag-grow. Parang wild kung ganun.
Yeah.
I think it would have been
that would be
really
fun.
something else
Yeah.
I told
yung
her
ano
nga
ka.
to push it. Actually, in traditional Japanese farmhouses, they actually grow silkworms underneath the floorboards because
Oh,
silkworms don't need
Oh.
sun. They don't need sun. They can grow in total darkness, and then they produce the pods that will
ang
produce this.
galing.
So the farmers use it as
Ah.
like a sideline, and they incorporate it in their houses.
Ang galing.
So pwede mo ring i-push
Okay,
yan, Trace.
wow.
No? I
Yeah,
mean,
Is
imagine.
the
added.
video showing ba? Is the video
Hmm?
showing?
No,
Oh,
it's not showing.
No,
Nag-iba
no, no.
yung share.
We're ano na, Jim.
Yung
I
drive yung nag-share.
Okay.
it says you cannot start screen sharing while another participant is sharing. I don't know who's sharing right now, so
Si Sir Jim yung nag-share.
okay, kaya pala.
But you can't
So
see the one that I'm sharing.
I could see it. Yeah, the drive.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can see
May
your perspective. What can you see now?
kahit ano lang na ano.
Ano bang nakita nyo ngayon?
Yung drive
Highlights.
ni Lance.
Okay. So it's not showing Tracy's work.
Yeah.
Yep. Nag-change siya. Anyway, the next comment ko, sabi ko, I think a little bit more push to create an otherworldly experience, although the project is there na. A little bit push could have made this into another realm entirely. Hindi naman siya bitin, okay. It's just that kung konti-konti na lang baka umabot na dun sa may ibang level na entirely.
Heaven,
Kasi
that's heaven.
yeah, heaven.
Can you
Ibang level.
you guys see it now?
Okay, I already asked this one. Yung isa may drawing kayo, yung diagonal section cut is very confusing. I don't know how the cut is. So, kung may
Oh,
ganun ka,
I
avoid
had
those.
okay.
Just stay with the usual ortho drawings, yung mga isometric, yung gantong section, and para madali yung communication about it. Hindi yung pagka, kunwari ito yung block, tapos sinlice mo na gano'n na flat pa yung mukha ng drawing. Medyo very confusing siya pag walang shadows, and also
I
pagka
see.
ganito, it's much clearer. Yan. So,
Mhm.
sayang lang yung effort dun sa drawing na yun kung hindi maintindihan. Diba, ano tayo, work smart tayo yun. So, earth and clay for your water collection, I'm thinking, maganda yung materiality, honestly. Ideal to have clay. Is it not ideal to have clay for the water collection? I am not sure kung okay yung material na yun pagka umuulan. Although yung nakita ko the material that you were pointing out, it's actually called rammed earth. So I'm not sure if yung rammed earth okay siya kasi dinadry out yung rammed earth eh. Tapos I'm not sure kung mababasa yung rammed earth kung may something na mangyayari. So I think maybe a little bit research doon kung
Oh,
Yeah.
okay ba yung rammed earth mabasa?
with the um what people do so that it doesn't get
Mhm.
moisture, they put finishes. So one of the finishes that I was proposing was limestone finish. It's a white reflective material which can
So
be
ikaklad
placed
mo
in
ng
the center.
stone.
It's not cladding stone. It's just it's kind of it's a finish only. It's a mixture with limestone particles. It's a wash that's been used
Okay,
ever since
okay,
like I think Greek or Roman times,
okay,
and
okay,
it's a natural white pigment. So
okay.
having if I rendered it with the white interior funnels, maybe I should have done that. The advantage with that is because it's really hot in the Philippines, and then when the rain comes down,
Mhm,
it already is. It's a
mhm, mhm.
what do you call this? Antimicrobial. It already has
Okay.
antimicrobial properties. So imagine that, and then processing it further and at the bottom to produce cleaner water for the plants.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Okay. Tapos yung next question ko, is there a reason why the structure peaks on one side versus the other?
Yes. Like I mentioned with this is the orientation with the southwest. Yeah, southwest corner in order to catch most of the habagat, the rain,
Okay,
like during
okay,
the stormy seasons. And
okay.
also there's a fire space. So putting the the outer space at the lower end actually kind of helps a little bit with the acoustics.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
then going down is like the
Okay.
fire space on top. So
Okay, so that's a very good point. I forgot about the birds. Nasan sila? Yun yung time ng presentation parang naisip ko. You mentioned about the birds and then nawala yung birds din sa presentation. So I think this one is just a note on when you tell your story, don't forget some elements out. So parang yun yung sinabi ko lang na ano. Because I appreciate the detailing that you're doing. Although I hope yung party that you showed me, yung mga pieces, yung mga bits first na and then magka-come together sila. I think yun yung pwedeng improvement on how everything is. Kasi parang nangyari, okay, ito na yung space yan, nabuo na. And then you were going on different parts. But maybe if how all of these connect together and then nakita yung final product, mas maganda yung experience nung storytelling. Also maganda talaga yung the way that you were saying your story and paano yung experience ng architecture na yun. Tapos, the Bisolay steps, I really like them a lot. So good job on that one, creating that one. That was very clever. It's very fresh. The architecture looks very fresh and windy. So you also got that mark. Okay, maganda yan. I also like it a lot na very naturey siya. Although I feel dun sa may renderings mo, yung interior of the church, parang hindi ko makita yung pagka-naturey. It's very brown earth tones. Wala yung mga plants na makita mo. So I was really hoping yung mga vaults mo or yung mga funnels mo na nandun nag-grow yung mga ilang plants na nakahang sila. So parang pumapasok ka sa isang rainforest. Tapos yung
oh,
sa middle of your rainforest, it's actually a chapel. So yun yung isang part na comment ko. And then
perhaps
mhm,
I guess perhaps if I added different plants that can stand the less sunlight,
mhm,
maybe I should have explored on that more.
mhm.
Actually, not.
Okay, you're uh-huh.
It's like the exterior didn't really follow through the interior. Just
Mhm,
why
mhm.
the
Yeah,
reason
that's true.
why Sir Jerry pointed out how it would have been better if the bamboos were expressed on the funnels. It would have been more expressive, and you can really feel the texture of the entire building. So it's
Mhm,
not just about the plants, but also about the entire experience of the building,
mhm,
following from the outside to the inside.
mhm. Actually, maski concrete yung ginamit mo sa funnels, maganda pa rin siya. Kasi if you know si VTN, di ba, si bottom niya, ginawa niya yung house for plants, yung mga houses na merong tree sa taas.
Because
But
right,
the way that they did the concrete, yung binuhos nila, they used a form na bamboo yung ginamit. So merong impression ng bamboo onto the walls that were
kasi
made.
when
So,
you're looking at the interior, it
mm,
feels like it
mhm,
is an interior air conditioned space. It doesn't.
mhm, mhm,
It's an open area,
na
tropical area.
mahangin, oo. Na
So
feeling mo maraming halaman.
it feels like we use a lot of laminated surfaces, which is more
Yes.
for interior projects, fit outs.
Yes, tama. And then, ano ba yun? Yung party mo on showing on how the architecture changes from one time of the year to the other. I think you're the only one who also showed yung ganun na evolution, which is, very good and commendable. Because that's also one of the things that I did mention earlier for like most na, oh, what if how does the architecture look like kung may drying tapos pagka tinanggal mo yung drying, it's actually part of the architecture and it evolves yung elevation mo. So parang ganun yung nangyayari dito. Although it's different because of the growth of the vegetation. So very good on that one, yung hitting the mark on that one. And yung tinanong ko na isa, like yung kanina, then si Sir Jerry, parang bakit hindi organic yung shape ng structure, why isn't it circular? Medyo na-address mo naman yun. But it would also be interesting kasi meron ka ring party na yung funnels mo were circular, di ba? So it could have also gone into that direction na medyo organic siya na circular siya just to make it a little bit more cohesive all in all. And maganda din naman yung parang kilikili na space in between them na parang meron kang maliit na oculus or whatever. It would also have been nice in the architecture and could have been very nice attempt. Since may ramp ka din, it could have been, circling upward, and it would have also been very interesting. Also, this is also an interesting approach naman.
Okay.
Also, it is one of the better projects overall that I really, really like the output, and it really is a special kind of church. So, congratulations, and I really like your project. It's very nice, very good yung storytelling mo, and I really feel the space. So, congratulations on that one.